God, I'm so impressed you all remained quiet whilst the intro was playing. That's sensational stuff. You know, the discipline, and Grimdark.
I didn't
We
know
should
there was
message
an
you and
intro.
Yeah, we should just mess with him and just keep quiet the whole time. Just so he's like, are you there? Are you there? Is your mic on?
I would just give up and it would just become a normal Northern Exile video. People just shrug. Let's carry on.
Then a minute in, we start piping up.
Hell yeah.
Just totally random stuff. So the doctor said I wouldn't get as many nosebleeds if I just kept my finger out of there.
I say finger. It's actually something else. Anyway, moving up swiftly on. How are we all doing in hobby land? What's been going on? I mean, I know Mac has got... You must have a few projects on the go, and in terms of Horus Heresy, and Kaifer we will normally see on stream doing stuff. So I took a leap out of Kaifer's book, actually, doing like painting streams. Terrible painting streams. But it's still there, so, you know, it is what it is.
No, it's just something to facilitate the hobby grind, you know?
Mm-hmm. It is a grind.
If I'm doing paperwork at work, I'll put Kaifer on because that's in like my mornings that he's usually streaming, like my 9-10 o'clock in the morning. So I'll just have it going on one of my monitors at work in the background while I'm doing paperwork.
Nice. I like Kaifer's. Let's all but let Kaifer. No, I do like Kaifer's. The back and forth with chat is one of the best ones that I've seen because it's not. A lot of the other painting channels I see are either women showing you their breasts, which is, you know, I'm not complaining. The camera doesn't need to be there though, girls. It can be lowered down. We don't need to be, you know, all up in there. Or it's dudes like fishing for entertaining things to say. Do you know what I mean? And when I did mine,
to be fair, half the dudes in this hobby have bigger breasts than the women, but
that is true. That is true. You know, it's true.
Just saying, when you're in a drought, but
any holes of goal. Yeah. Beware, lads. Beware.
Yeah. No, I actually find it really depressing when I see that because there are so many really, really talented female painters out there who just completely get missed because, like,
they cover it
obviously up. the chesticles are front and center. Mm-hmm. You know, the old calcium cannons come out on display, and all of a sudden these wonderful painters just get overlooked because someone, usually with no talent but a sizable social media following, takes the limelight.
It's an interesting correlation you've drawn there, Mako.
Yeah, I can't exactly pull that off because I have very few physical, like, redeeming features to the average hobbyist. Like, you know, if I get up there and part the old chocolate starfish for the cameras, I don't think we're going to get many subscribers.
What about your gargantuan penis?
Well, it kind of scares people away. That's the problem. Like the purple-headed, veiny, throbbing python of love is just a bit too much for some people.
Purple-headed, veiny python. Yeah, do you know what? That took us. That was a record. That took us 2 minutes and 34 seconds to get to, you know, all of the nice parts of the human anatomy that we want to make fun of. Anyway, it is what it is.
Wait, wasn't that the recording topic? I thought that was the topic.
Yeah, that's what you said, right?
This
was this week's topic.
Yeah.
Why did you send us all those pictures before the episode if that was not what we were talking about?
We don't talk about that. That's a file that was kept between bros, all right? Just you know, there's a reason there's a password lock on it. Just leave it there, all right? No dwarves were harmed in the making of my folder, all right? Just leave it alone. No, I mean, I think I've had, as I just said, I've got some void scarred Corsairs here that I'm trying to paint, or trying to work up the courage to paint. If anyone's felt that real downer feeling of, oh my god, these are such lovely models, I'm going to ruin them, you can let me know in the comments. I know you all have. I know 2 people here who haven't, and that's just, you know. Or maybe you do. Have you guys ever had that feeling when you've got a nice model that you've really converted or put together really well, and you're thinking, oh, nah, here we go.
I think so. I think that's a natural arc in, like, everyone's hobby journey, right? Especially if it's a new army project and you don't have a scheme defined. I think that's where I feel the most trepidation, right? But once you know you're signed up for, I don't know, Craft World Simon or whatever, you know your reds and your whites, and you're gonna paint your colors, and it's all good, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that one. I get that. I mean, once I'm in,
are you gonna do an OG Craft World or
no? I'm gonna do probably Exodites. So there's They're
cool.
wandering around on their own, just pushing shit in.
With or without dinosaurs?
Without. I'm not really a huge... I've never been a huge fantastical mount fan in anything. I'm not really... Not my kind of thing.
You never got into, like, Dinotopia?
No. I think it's...
What's Dinotopia? What is this?
Oh, boy.
I want to do some
just Google it.
I want to do some,
yeah, you're going to have to Google it.
Yeah. Don't Google it. It's alright. Well, Google it. It's fine. Yeah, whatever. Do what you want. Yes, that's the hobby stuff I've got going on. Also, a new Space Marine chapter, because I finished Exile Blades now. They're all done. So, and I've got several squads of Space Marines left over that are just undercoated, and I'm like, what am I going to do with these? So yeah, probably a Dark Angel successor, because Dark Angels are the best of the normal chapters. Fight me on the street. It's not even worth fighting over. They literally are. Like, they literally, First Legion, all that kind of stuff. You know, literally are. There he is. Alyssa Milano's in that? What?
I think you're thinking of, like, the cartoony kiddie version of it. I was more into, like... I had this one as, like, a jigsaw that I, like, framed up.
Hey, Michael Clark Duncan. Rest in peace. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I may as well put the...
Good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the things I thought we wouldn't be talking about today, that is one of them, but that's fine. We should probably get into the topic.
We're getting better and better at that, I think.
Yeah. We should probably get into the topic now that I've thought about it. Today's topic is, what piece of 40k lore made you roll your eyes the most, and why? I'm going to open the floor here, because I've got several things to say, but I'd be okay if somebody stole my thing, because I'm sick of talking about them. So, either of you can go first, and then we'll jump in. I'll go second, maybe. He'll jump in.
So I have a problem, which is like the amount of bad 40k lore is fast starting to outstrip the good stuff to me. So I have like this singularity of bad ideas that are like conglomerating together and sucking everything else into this like bottomless black hole of bad. Because like,
yeah, we're not starved for options here on this topic.
No.
Yeah, it's like, do I go like, yeah, do you go like Gathering Storm? You know, or like a Wrath of Magnus.
How about we do it this way? We don't do hot takes, because I would consider Gathering Storm a hot takes. I know a lot of people who liked it, mainly Ultramarines fans, but there are a lot of them. So why don't we do more controversial? Yeah, why don't we do more controversial, as in things that aren't? No, we'll do it in reverse. We'll do non-controversial stuff right now. We'll just go things everybody seems to hate. We'll do those. Demonculabra, looking at you. Hello. And then we'll go into like controversial stuff like Gathering Storm, things like that. Give it some structure.
Interesting. Ooh. 2 rounds. Okay.
It's such a hard topic because like so much of it is subjective when it comes to like the stuff that people do and don't love. Oh jeez. I'm going to say that the biggest thing for me, that if I could retcon away one thing, I guess that's really what it is, right? If you could just get rid of one thing, if you retcon away one concept, it would have to be a toss-up between the cabal stuff and the completely inane... No one seems to be able to pin down what the Emperor's personality is. It's just and like his character and his history, and it's just like, oh, he had this person help him with this, and here's Belisarius Cawl, and here's Urda, and Astarte, and all these like ancillary characters. It's like you're just bloating what really should be a pretty simple story. You know, it's like a Darth Vader backstory. It's like, okay, fell over, got burnt. Like, it doesn't need to be much grander than that, right? So it's probably that for me, like some combination of like awful heresy plot threads that have nothing to do with the Astartes is probably like the
I think you picked a good one. Yeah, like the Cabal is universally despised. I've not met one person who enjoyed who will admit to going, oh yeah, I was waiting for that. John Grammaticus, best character. Right? No, I don't think anyone's saying that. I honestly, it got to the point in those books where I would get to a Cabal part and I'd just skip chapters. I'd be like, okay, where does this stop? Okay, it stops. Okay, cool. Carry on. And you miss nothing.
How much... Here's a question for you guys. Because I skipped the Siege novels. because I was kind of, at the time, this was like a super spicy take. I was kind of checked out of the hype. You know, I was not on the hype train, so to say, right? But it was there just loads more of that during the Siege series.
Yeah. Well, and they lulled you in because in the
Less cabal.
you know, yeah, they lured you in.
Less cabal and more the ancillary characters.
Yeah,
to the
John
Emperor.
isn't in it for like the first novel, and then at the end of the first novel, he turns up, and you're just like, oh no, because he kind of had an ending as well. So I thought we were safe. I thought, okay, Dan Abnett, I know he's his favorite character. I know he loves John Grammaticus. He just keeps sucking him off. Okay, cool, but he's dead. Great, he's gone. He got stabbed with that Fulgurite thing, and whatever it was, and he's away. No, he's back. He's back. He's on Terra. He's running around, and he's looking for Erda. And you're like, dude, why? Why is this guy still here? And right at the end of the first like Terra novel, you're like, okay, cool. You know, the actual one where they're literally on Terra now. You know, you're like, okay, cool. We're on Terra. Here we go. We just had this really cool first novel, which was quite good. First actual Siege of Terra novel, not Solar War. I mean, the actual one where they're on Terra, right? The first one was pretty good. But like right at the end of that novel, you're gearing up for Sanguinius versus Horus, right? That's what you're gearing up. Oh, here we go, right? We're gonna get that scene, and then John turns up, and you're like, okay, no, we're not. We're gonna get a full novel next time of nonsense subplots that don't go anywhere because everyone's gonna die anyway, and then we'll get like 5 minutes.
Spoilers, you're gonna get 5.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Then we get Horus.
Actually,
I don't know, man.
Sorry. We should probably mention what the cabal is. A lot of people actually won't know.
Yeah.
Probably for the better, but like, so the cabal is essentially responsible for turning Alpharis and his legion to Horus's side. They meet them long before the heresy takes place, and it's literally like Spider-Man's rogues gallery of like alien species. Like Eldrad is one of them, and it's all these other Xenos who are like, oh, this heresy is coming, and we can use this as the one chance to destroy chaos from the galaxy forever. But to do this, Alpharius, you need to join Horus's rebellion, because if Horus wins the civil war, he will be so disgusted in what he's become that he will kill all of humanity off, and all of their emotions will die with them, and this will essentially completely starve chaos of any and all emotional energy, and thus end the threat of chaos to the galaxy. Forgetting that chaos has been there since long before humans. But anyway, that was the thought process of the cabal, and it was forced in. There were all these characters. They invented perpetuals, like immortal humans. You kill them, they just come back to life. And then they invented perpetual Primarchs, and then the Emperor was perpetual, and Malkador was but wasn't, and all these like horrible plot lines now stem from this, because these cabal characters, and especially perpetuals, just start popping up in other stories, and you can just feel a slump every time a novel like cuts away to one of these characters. You're like just getting into the swing of things, you're enjoying reading the novel, and then it's like, and here's John Grammaticus, and you're like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, and
right.
He's such a self-insert as well. I'm sorry, but he is. Like the way the earlier novels, the first time you see him, he's shagging some, you know, upmarket woman. You're like, okay, come on, Dan, come on. You know,
he's like, there when the Thunder Warriors are getting killed,
yeah, he's
and
just
all
always
this
around.
sort of stuff.
He knew the Emperor on Terra and did all this and shook his hand. And of course, John didn't remember the Emperor. You know what I mean? Like, John didn't remember the Emperor. The Emperor remembered John.
Yeah.
Like, okay, come on.
Yeah, but in the end, like, Eldrad and Grammaticus, I think it was together, basically literally flushed the cabal down the toilet. Like, just, they open an airlock and just fling the cabal members out into space. Like, so another ride just went, all right, that's enough of them. And then they bring the bastards back.
Yeah. They can't get enough of them.
No.
And the other thing about the audiobooks that he literally ruins is that every single time, he's the only character in the audiobooks who has an American accent. And it's a really whiny Midwestern, hang on, all the time. So and every single chapter he does in the Siege of Terra kind of starts with him saying something. And I swear they did that on purpose, so you can just press skip. You just skip. Back to Rogel Dawn. Yeah, so I'm, you know, and away you go.
Those kind of plot threads, getting like more and more of those towards the end of the heresy, like these non-Astartes like inserts, were the tipping point that went from me reading heresy novels to me just listening to heresy audiobooks
Skip it.
and only half paying attention.
Yeah, and that's a damn shame. I remember back in 2006 reading the first three, Horus Rising, False Gods, and Galactine Flames. And
reading them over and over.
Yeah, I couldn't put them down. Like I was in work. I got in trouble because I was literally like sneaking them under my desk at work. I was like, I can't stop. This is amazing. I was just getting back into the hobby, and Horus Rising had a big part to play in me getting into Space Marines. I was such an Eldar fanboy at the time, and it was just like this Loken guy is awesome, and I had him in my head as sort of a younger Bruce Willis in my head. Don't know why, just like that's how he was, and I loved it, absolutely loved it, and it's such a shame. It's such a shame. But you're right. It started with characters like this. It started with Legion. Legion was not a bad book, self-contained. It's not a terrible book. I know Mac has got a different opinion probably, but it's not the worst of Horus Heresy by a long way. And at the very least, it's something that it doesn't derail the whole train. But introducing John there, fine, he works, and his ending in that book is quite cool, right? He kills himself, and sorry, spoilers, but he kills himself. Even though he's a perpetual, so he's not going to die, he's going to come back again. And from then, when he starts popping up in, say, the Unremembered Empire, and he starts popping up in, it seems to be every single plot line that goes by the wayside that nobody really cares about, he pops up in and is involved in tying that up, sort of a thing. And then when he gets the Siege of Terror, I think the whole problem with the Cabal and John is what you just said there before. In the more uninteresting books that are out there, that you're trying to enjoy them, then John turns up and makes it interminable. You just can't. It's done. I'm done with this book now. He does that for several books, and then Siege of Terror, where we should be safe from this guy now. He turns up again because Dan Abnett can't let his little self-insert go. And how does he? This still pisses me off. And when I was reading it, I was like, are you okay? All right. Let me set the scene for you. Right. The Emperor has gone onto the Bridge of the Vengeful Spirit. He's fought his way through this amazing cataclysm of demons and warped landscapes, and the inside of the Vengeful Spirit's far bigger than it should be. It's like a whole world in there, and he's fought his way through it. You know, he's got Loken next to him, which is awesome, right? He's going to go fight Horus. Here we go, right? He goes into the Horus's throne room. They lock eyes on each other, and they have this moment of... And you look at it from Horus's point of view, where the Emperor's like, looking at you, and you're like, what, why? And he's not, it doesn't seem like he's talking to you. He's not. He's talking to the Chaos Gods behind you. And such a Lovecraftian thing. It's really, really spooky the way that it's done. And you're like, whoa. And then they get into it, and they're about to hit. They're about to literally sword on sword. Here we go. And then John Grammaticus. That's what he does, right? We're literally seeing the Horus and the Emperor cross swords, and where are we going? Or
Alanius Pius.
Yeah, where are we going? That's them two together, walking. And do you know how they get away? They have a ball of yarn. I shit you not. They have a ball of yarn, and they do that thing when you're in a cave, where they just let it out, and then they follow the yarn out of this hellscape. I just hate his guts. I just can't tell you how much I hate this guy's guts. Oh my God.
Yeah, remember in Betrayal at Kelth when it keeps cutting away to Alanius Pius, and it's like it's the Betrayal at Kelth is going down. Gilliman's being blown out into space, possibly killed. He's not, but it's in the air at this point. The word bearers have betrayed the Ultramarines. The Ultramarines are being attacked by hordes of demons and possessed, and they're trying to work out what the hell is going on. Dark Mechanicum scrap code is like shut down all their shields and orbital defenses. There's literally starships falling from the sky into the atmosphere. And then it's like, anyway, so here's the adventures of Alanius Pius and like his like a little like post-apocalypse gang that he's like, the zombie apocalypse survivors like making their way to the shopping mall. It's literally what's going on. Like Dawn of the Dead is going on in the background, and just it keeps cutting away from like the word bearers and the Ultramarines like fighting on the outside like skin of the Ultramarines flagship. Like Marines are fighting in 0G, like using mag boots to jump from like position to position, shooting each other in space. It's like, and anyway, here's this guy with, you know, like some random humans just on the planet. Like, it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, what compels that choice as your B story or maybe C story? You know, but like your supporting elements.
Dan
That's like,
Abnett, the most overrated writer.
Yeah. That guy's.
I feel like that's a super, a super hot take.
Well, he's coasted on Eisenhorn for decades. Eisenhorn's and Eisenhorn's a great series. It has some missteps though. You know, it's not a perfect.
I think most people seem. My impression is most people seem to really like Dan Abnett's books, in spite of these other characters. Like all the parts that I would like from, you know, Unremembered Empire or Know No Fear in this example, they are, you know, in spite of those characters that we're kind of complaining about.
It's kind of
I think with Dan Abnett though, it's like a case of people just say, "Oh, you gotta like it. It is Dan Abnett's work."
Yeah.
Do I though?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't like that argument at all. You get that with ADB is another one.
Yes. Yeah. I mean.
Yeah, but I don't think you fall into the same trap with ADB though that you do with Dan Abnett. Like Dan is clearly, it's like Graham McNeil, right? They're sort of the old hands when it comes to writing these stories.
Mm-hmm.
And Graham McNeil, I think, has been consistently the better quality. He never hits the high highs of Abnett, but he also never hits the lows of Abnett. And Abnett's lows are strong. They take you out of the story lows.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, I'll agree with that.
But that's my personal hot take.
I mean,
send your hate mail to what the 40k.
I think on a closing thing on Dan Abnett is I think a lot of people don't realise that these books are amazing. Dan Abnett is a good Warhammer writer. He's not a very good sci-fi writer. In terms of other writers out there, the Ian M. Banks and other people like that, he doesn't lace their boots. And as soon as you read other sci-fi, you're like, oh my days.
Yeah, Kevin J. Anderson.
Yeah. Philip K. Dick, all those guys, right?
Timothy Zahn.
Yeah. You're not going back to Abnett thinking, oh, this guy's a really good writer. No. He's the best of a bad bunch, right? If you're all your career is what you're doing is writing Warhammer novels, I'm going to go out on a limb. You're probably not a very good novelist in terms of like the mainstream and writing books, right? As much as people don't like George R.R. Martin, I still think A Game of Thrones is one of the best pieces of prose I've ever read, right? Literally the first book. Everything else after that, give or take. But the first book, one of the best pieces of prose I've ever read from start to finish from a fantasy author. There are no people like that in 40k. I'm sorry, there isn't. ADB is not on that level. He's nowhere near it, right? These people are writing borderline fan fiction, and while some of the novels are really good, there are some gems in there. I think people compare and contrast it to the codex writing and go, well, they're so amazing compared to that. Yeah, but that shows you how bad you've got it in your codexes. That's the difference.
It's also a different kind of it's an unfair comparison, I think. The codex writings are short, kind of like
it is unfair.
Outside of the it's like a third, I don't want to say third person, but you know what I mean. It's disconnected. It's not, you're not looking through the lens of someone on the ground usually, right? I mean, there are some paragraphs or
I'm interested to see where you're going to take this now, or where you're going to go with your.
I actually wanted to give you a side question here, North. Okay. I'd actually be curious to get your opinion on Chris Wright as an author in the Warhammer.
Okay.
Are you familiar much with his?
You would bring up the only outlier. Chris Wright.
Is that how you rate him?
Yeah, his books are legitimately brilliant. Like the White Scars, I find nothing more uninteresting than a Space Marine Legion that is essentially based on a historical culture, 1-on-1, which is what the White Scars are. They're literally Mongols in space, Genghis Khan in space. They are somebody has done GCSE history and gone, that'll do, and slapped it into 40k. But the way he made them interesting was genius, and that is not something I've not seen that done since Horus Rising, when Dan Abnett did his good novels. You know what I mean? I've not seen it done since then. Like when they made the Lunar Wolves really interesting, and their culture and their background and what they do. I wanted, if you can make me want to collect an army I had no interest in at the start of your novel, you're doing something right. And the Death Guard novels never did that for me. By God, the Salamander novels never did that for me. They were awful.
Definitely not. Yeah.
He also made the Death Guard and the Emperor's Children better.
Yeah,
in a White Scars novel.
Yeah.
It was even working on them.
You sprinkle some Stardust over there. And Warhawk, by the way, just, phenomenal. And Warhawk's the one where we get Sigismund too. Like, it's like Sigismund's best moment. Like, and you hear Chris write in interviews, he's like, I had no idea people hadn't covered this already. I thought somebody done Sigismund to death. I thought, that guy will be finished. His story will be finished by the time I get to it. No, it wasn't. So he did it. He's like, why didn't you touch on this? You got Khan fighting Sigismund. The culmination of that entire story. Nobody else could be bothered finishing it. So in comes Chris Wright and writes an amazing piece of prose regarding, Sigismund is now literally a weapon, and doesn't feel anything and doesn't do anything. And that unnerves Khan, of all people. That's an amazing moment. And this is what Magnus said there. He's not a... One thing I will say for Aaron Dembski-Bowden, I really don't like, he fucking despises the Emperor and Space Marines in general. He doesn't really like loyalist Space Marines. In fact, you can tell he's writing things like Spears of the Emperor under duress. He's like, oh, for God's sake, I've got to write these dudes. And they're the most cookie-cutter... It's a decent book, but the most cookie-cutter Space Marines there are. You cross-reference Night Lords with that book, and it's like they're different, they're on different spheres of, but what our ADB does for Night Lords, Chris Wright does for everything that he writes about. That's what I'll say. So what ADB does for Night Lords, which is phenomenal and makes you want to collect them and all that, Chris Wright seemingly does for everybody he does it for. Anybody that he touches becomes better. Becomes, that's more interesting now.
That's my impression as well.
Yeah, I've not really seen any missteps from him either. He hasn't written very much, is probably why. I think he's only done 5 or 6 books right now. But I've not seen too many of his... He hasn't done many faux pas. There's been 1 or 2 scenes where I've been like, okay, I didn't need to hear that, but that's fine. It's more context. But there's not been any waste chapters or characters. There's not really been anything that's, And you get to see the Legion selection process. That's something we haven't seen before. Right at the start of the first White Scars novel. And it's really clever, the way he does it. The aspirant wants to join the Lunar Wolves or the Ultramarines, and he gets the White Scars and goes, shit. What? He's like, yeah, you're going to go... you're going to write poetry? This sucks, man. I don't want to write poetry. And it's cool. And he goes throughout this entire journey, and I just think it's awesome. And unfortunately, other people got to touch his characters in the Siege of Terror, and started not killing them off, but just giving them off screen. They're over there now, sort of a thing, and they never really came back. So he's a really good author. I really like him, and I think Maka does too. I think, in fact, it's Maka who turned me. I didn't really. The Horus Heresy series is so massive that if you can skip something you don't think you'll be interested in, you do, right? And White Scars was one of those. I just skipped it. I was like, I'm not interested in White Scars. It was actually Maka who was saying, no, this guy's amazing. That made me go, okay, I'll give this another reread. And it was brilliant. Loved it. Absolutely brilliant. I could do without the Jamaican Khan. I could do without that. But aside from that, really, really good books. If you know, you know.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, it's the fault of the voice actor, or the narrator, rather, right?
Yeah.
Interesting choice. Interesting choice.
So I'm going to put it out there. Not a bad start to our episode, right? The horrible bit of fluff that if I could take that one thing away that's universally despised, for me, it's that.
All right.
Okay, so
you got to give me something you don't like, rather than you're like, we're trying to break Kaifa down.
I was just I was just curious how you rate the different authors. That's all.
Yeah.
But in any case, yeah. So if we're picking something that's very agreeable to the fan base, I think I'd probably opt for something very Matt Ward era, like the or even like the Wolf Time stuff, or like Wolf Time stuff. Well, maybe some people like that, but for sure, no one really enjoys Ragnar Blackmane.
No.
just bodying Ghazghkull, right? Like I think
this will
that's
not
like
be the last time the Space Wolves turn up in this video. I can promise you that.
oh, probably not, right? I think another easy pick would probably be the Grey Knight's character inscribing his name on Morty's heart, right?
God, yeah.
Which you mentioned in one of your recent videos.
Yeah, so
actually.
stupid, mate. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, like those are the kinds of I think low-hanging fruit we'd have to go with for like broad agreeability for like things people don't like the community as a whole.
Do you think it's like
right?
it's more stepping out of the boundaries of what should be possible in the law? That's the problem, right? It's not really, it's more stepping out of the power circle. Like, all of a sudden this guy's, absolutely bodying Mortarion and carving his name into his heart. Even as a Grey Knight player, I would say that's stupid, and.
Yeah, I think, well, for me, it hits this kind of moral intuition around respecting people's, and this sounds lame, right, a little bit, but like respecting fans' feelings around their factions and characters and champions, right? Like you don't want some nobody, you don't even want Gilliman inscribing his name on Morty's heart because it's cringe, okay? Right? It's a cringe thing to do, okay? And to have like your OG Grey Knight character, my OC, it has that kind of energy real bad, right? And I think the same is like for Ragnar Blackmane. Like I feel that same kind of moral intuition. I don't exactly know like how to pinpoint it, but it's like if I'm an Orcs fan, I don't like seeing my number one guy, Ghazghkull, getting beat up by a Space Marine captain.
Some jobber.
Like that's not. Yeah, it's not satisfying. Like, if I'm going to suffer a loss, I want it to be at the Lion. You know what I mean? Or like someone who's very renowned, at least. Because I get it. If I'm an Orc fan and Ghazghkull's my number one guy, my big cheese, on the tabletop, it's like, I get it. I'm a bad guy. I want to ruin the Imperium. I'm playing a heel kind of a faction and character, right?
Well, not in the Orcs' eyes. You're not. Like in the Orcs' eyes,
not in their. Yeah, so. Yeah, it depends, like, which lens you're looking through, right?
Yeah.
Are you looking at the IP as a whole, or, like, I don't know. Maybe I just have that default presumption because, like, I play different, or I collect and play from time to time different factions. So it's kind of like just looking at the broader, Imperial point of view, which generally seems to be how things are portrayed.
Like that. But
yeah, those are the kinds of things that I would default to.
It went way under the radar that Ghazghkull and Ragnar face off. It went so under the radar. Like even at the time, this is what surprised me. People went, "Oh yeah, fair enough. Yeah, that happens." It's like, no, it doesn't.
That happens.
No, it doesn't.
Jeez.
Like every single time, every Games Workshop store you go to, no one was surprised. They were like, yeah, and Ragnar would do that. Like, no, he wouldn't. Like, it's just such a really, really, really shitty take. Like you can't listen. If if Leman Russ came back and a Watcher in the Dark just kicked his ass, like the one that would be fucking hilarious. But number two, like it would be silly, and nobody would get into it. Everyone would be like, "That's stupid. Like, why would you do it?" You can't take the main event dude from one faction and have some jobber from another faction beat them. Not just beat them, but cut their head off as well and just like walk away like it's nothing. Like nothing happened to Ragnar. And there've been multiple stories with him where, like, he killed, like, a Dark Angel. I think it was like a captain of the Dark Angels in an honor duel. It was the First Blood. So not only is he a dishonorable cretin, but, also he just gets away with it. And this is the thing. Again, shut up. Stop talking about Space Wolves.
No consequences, for the special snowflake my OC character.
Exactly.
You definitely get a lot of... I guess the less favorable novels are the ones that just wank particular characters, right?
I mean, can you
that might be a theme. Offhand,
sorry, I put you on the spot there.
No, not off the top of my head.
Yeah, I know
there
are
ones.
That
would be a natural kind of writing device.
I know there's lots of people in the comments shouting out names now, going this novel, because there are so many. You know what I mean? It's not like, but
break it down even smaller, like a trope, like the trope of your faction's big bad or special character just used to be a beating bitch for another faction. So like Eldar, the avatar of Cain, for a good probably 20 years, was the beating bitch. Whenever you wanted to make a Marine look cooler, you just had him murk a fucking avatar of Cain, right?
Yeah.
But at
Now
least
it's moved on. The avatar of Cain's been spared for the moment. He's got a new model. It's cool. Everyone agrees. Very
terrible.
cool model. And so now it's Demon Primarchs are the beating bitch.
Yeah, that's perhaps worse. Yeah, the avatar of Cain is at least a different individual embodying the avatar powers, right, at the time. Whereas Gazgul's he's a key
he's a dude.
individual, right?
Yeah.
Like, why would you do this to the individual named character?
And what I want to know is, like, I'd love to know who at Games Workshop Studio went, hey, Dave, all right, mate, I'm just going to kill off, yeah, all right, Dave, how you doing? Want a cup of tea? Yeah, mate, what are you up to, Dave? I'm just killing off Gazgul. Okay, well, do you want 2 sugars? Or, do you know what I mean? Like, how did that conversation go? Like, it must have gone something like that, because if I'm there, I'm like, sorry, Dave, you're doing what? You're doing what?
It must have been a soft pitch. Like they didn't go into the weeds. They just said, we're doing some campaign. They're not putting much effort into the story of it. And it's just really an excuse to release character models and rules updates, right? As part of the product release cycle schedule,
you can't
really,
even,
that they're
even
committed
pitching
to.
something like that at Games Workshop should be grounds for fucking public flogging. Like, how dare you? How dare you touch our boy?
But if the answer to that, so if, let's say they utter those words, they have that reaction you're suggesting they should, which I agree with. But if the answer to that, you're doing what is, oh no, but he's gonna turn Primaris and he's gonna get a new model too, a Gazgul, I mean. So they're both gonna get new models, they're both gonna get hurt, and they're both gonna get new models because of this. And then no harm, no foul in their eyes, right? Is my kind of sense that they have around this kind of issue, right? It's just like no reverence. It's like, oh, he got a loss. It's a tie. It's a draw, really, which is still offensive to me. Like, you can't have your Space Marine captain draw with the big cheese of a faction.
I know, right? It
It
sounds silly because I'm going to recommend Commissar Yarrick should have done this, but Yarrick has been built up for so long.
He could. He's a special case. He's an exception, right? Yeah. Because the setup the groundwork's been laid, right? Yeah. And the whole orc belief angle and mythos around him, right?
Yeah.
He could feasibly.
Yeah. So they should have killed each other, and then you bring Yarrick back in like a, I don't know, like half bionic Yarrick comes back, and then Gazgul comes back, and they just continue fighting again. Gazgul's got his head sewn back on. Yarrick's got half a mechanized body now. They're just headbutting each other until the end of time. It's glorious. It's 40k. It's beautiful.
That'd be sweet as, yeah.
Can't have that.
Awesome.
The Space Wolves need another win. Can't have that. So no, I'm with you on that one. That's a really good one. That's a really, really good one. All right. In terms of things that everybody hates, Cabal's been done. Gazgul's been done. I'm gonna go and near universally mocked. Yvraine bringing the going down the line of not just the whole Gathering Storm. I mean Yvraine to bringing back Guilliman. Now the Gathering Storm, I know a lot of people who quite like the Gathering Storm as a whole, which is why I said it's more of a controversial take. Yvraine being shipped with Guilliman and going over there and healing him is nearly universally mocked and disliked. It's just one of those things that people just roll their eyes, and I can't blame them. It's just when you have a Xenos species going up to any Space Marine chapter, even if it was the Salamanders, and they say, hey, we can bring back Vulcan, that they're not getting that sentence out of their mouth. That hammer's coming down into their face before they can even finish what they're saying, right? They never get to say what they're saying. They never get to approach the home world of a chapter like that. Especially not all up in arms with this weird, McKendrite guy from fucking, what are they? Cult Mechanicus, right? Especially not with that. You're going, no, fuck off. You're going to do what now? You want to touch us what? No, fuck off. Go away. You're weird. Go away. Sell your feet pics on over there. We got no need for them over here. Yeah,
I totally agree. Like, what did she do. And I say that knowing the answer, because I think what she did wasn't necessary to bring Gilliman back.
No, it seemed
It was
completely
extra, completely unnecessary.
Yeah, I mean, it just anything that feeds into the meme culture of 40k, I believe, is mostly a mistake. Mostly, I mean, there are certain things that are funny that are like worth doing, but I would say mostly anything that feeds into that meme mentality of the hobby as a whole kind of should be looked at again. And I don't know how many rewrites this went through. None. Let's be honest, none. But like having.
Well, that was a campaign series too, right? We're noticing a trend.
Yes. Yeah. Actually,
we're noticing a trend.
Yeah. That is. Well, this is the fall, isn't it? We've gone from the Third War for Armageddon to this. You know, literally Third War for Armageddon to this, and it just, you know, Angron coming back for a bit, and it's just awesome. Got Grey Knights in there, got Space Wolves in there, you got all these other cool factions in there just fighting away, and all of a sudden we've got, you know, a dating sim essentially between. You know, and again, that is a bit overly harsh, but you didn't need to do it with a Rain. You didn't need to break down certain sections of your lore completely just to give us a Primarch back. Or, you know, you gave us the Lion back without needing an Eldar tickling his balls. So why did we need Rain to come back and do the same for Gilla? I don't understand. Like, it just...
Yeah. Actually... You mentioned Armageddon there, so I have another inquiry for you. Maybe you have the answer, maybe you don't. But here's the question: how many product model releases were tied into the Armageddon campaign that everyone loves?
Don't know.
Because Bad Ab had a lot, right?
Yeah.
But everyone seems to. That's like a beloved campaign.
Yeah,
basically,
I
right?
don't
Even
know.
though there's loads of model releases, so it's not a problem to have models tied into. You know, product releases tied into a campaign.
Sure.
It just seems to be an execution issue.
Like, I have no idea.
Bad Ab's a great vertical slice. That's the difference. Bad Ab's this great vertical slice of like, here's an offhanded event that's mentioned. Let's go and explore it further. Whereas this is creation of new fluff, which has huge ramifications going forward. I think that's the difference.
Yeah. No, you're right.
I think that's true.
But in spite of that, you still didn't have to have you still didn't have to have like 80% of the nonsense, right? You still could have had the rift. You still could have had Gilliman wake up, right? Very funny. Very funny.
Well, there's so many easier. Like we've gone through it before. There's so many better, easier ways of telling these stories. So you almost just sit there going like, "How was this the one you landed on of all of your options?"
yeah. We literally have the Great Rift there, and the Emperor coming back in his spirit. Can't he just heal him through the Great Rift? No, get that Eldar bitch over here and get her tits out. Okay.
Gilliman's already he's already healing in stasis. They've been telling us that since like 2nd or 3rd edition 40k. It's been in every codex. Like, oh, the wound on his neck looked like it's closing up. And we have in the Horus Heresy novels, there's Archaeotech that there's like this weird spider thing. Like a mechanical spider. Seems to be described like, you remember the replicators in Stargate SG-1?
Yeah.
It's described kind of like that. That, of all people, Ferrus Manus found on Medusa. And it can move inside a stasis field and it like heals people inside stasis, like stitches up the bolt gun holes in them and reknits the flesh. Like, another reference, Fifth Element, when they like rebuild Mila Jovovich at the start of it, you know, and they got the machine that like 3D prints. Yeah, it's like that. This spider thing, it's like all you had to do was have Call have that, because the very ship that had that device on it was the one that actually rescued the gene seed that was given to Call for the Primaris experiments during the Siege of Terra. So it literally is all set up, like it actually worked out. And all you had to do was have Call like, I've come through, you know, fire and death to bring you this device, and he like, you know, puts it there and it crawls into the field and like knits the neck
cool
closed.
Is that?
Like done, right? Like,
well,
super
because
simple,
now you're connecting.
You don't have the you have heresy connected. You don't have the Black Legion like having to crash through the wall like the Kool-Aid man.
Right? That's what I'm.
Yeah, it's like
trying
a
to
blast
get to
from Paris.
That's wholesome. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, so that's like what I would have done, but what the fuck would I know? You know? Yeah, sure. Black Legion crash through the wall like the Kool-Aid Man, and an Eldar Witch performs some ritual of like sacrificing souls to bring back a Primarch who isn't healed anyway and needs a suit of armor anyway. But like Belisarius Cawl just happened to have the suit of armor on him because he just keeps it with him at all times,
That's
like a business
thing
card.
that nobody
Like-
ever talked about, right?
Yeah, it's a fucking great set of books. The people who love it have great taste.
Like,
Yeah, fuck.
why? The one thing that really is like, okay, let's go into more controversial things. We go straight into Gathering Storm now because it's pointless us doing it later on. So the one thing that people overlook: how the ever-loving fuck did the Black Legion get that far into Ultramar? You've been telling us for years that the only thing that could get anywhere close is a full Tyranid High fleet. I'm sorry, the Black Legion aren't that powerful, right? There's loads of them, right? At the end of the day, they're just Space Marines. That's all they are. Like, a lot of them, not a lot of them have warp powers. Some of them do. Most of them don't, because they don't really trust demons and shit, right? So, like, they're coming in. Maybe let's call it 50 to 100,000 Space Marines. Let's be generous, right? 50 to 100,000 Space Marines. I'm sorry, getting into Ultramar, that's difficult. Like, you're gonna be, there were legions in the Horus Heresy who couldn't do that. Entire legions. The Night Lords couldn't do that. They had to sneak in. There was no, like...
Hang on, this is at the same time, North, as Abaddon has literally struggled to just overcome Cadia.
Yeah, one world.
And to the degree that he had to crash a Blackstone fortress into it. And yet somehow he had enough forces left over from that to just send enough of an element to give the Ultramarines chapter on their home world grief. And
by the way, it wasn't the whole Black Legion, as you say. He sent an element of the Black Legion over there, and they very nearly killed Guilliman. They went right through the Ultramarines like they were fucking butter. That's the problem. The power levels seem to change with whatever Games Workshop seem to need to happen in the moment. That's bad writing, and that it just makes your eyes roll into the back of your head. You're like, what are these Black Templar fools? Black Templars aren't fools. They're gorgeous. What are these Black Legion fools doing here? I'm a big fan of the Black Legion books. I think they're great. I think they're really good at showing the power level of the Black Legion. And I think when we have an author who is engaging with these factions on the ground, we get better books, by and large. As soon as they go into the esoteric bullshit, or they're asked to do something that's really beyond their remit, like, I don't know, bringing a Primarch back for the first time in 35 years, like, it starts to get to them. Right, they start to go, okay, well, how do we do it? It's got to be something spectacular. It's got to be something weird. Well, we need bad guys. Let's throw the Black Legion in there. Why? Why couldn't it be Mortarion? Why couldn't it be the Death Guard? They're right there. You were going to put them there. Anyway, the Plague Wars and all that. Just make them the Plague Wars. And Ivrain's there. She's very like Isha, right? Nurgle will want that in a cage, poking it for the rest of the time, right? Just do that. No, they're given these... They're given square pegs for square holes, and they get a circle one and bash it into place because it's the nearest one to hand.
Well, there's certainly a lot of that. I mean, it just feels very, very clear that there's very little planning that goes into the setups for our most significant players to return. Right, in the case of Primarchs, right? Like we spoke a bit about Silent King last week, but it's like he doesn't really, even though he's the biggest player, he doesn't have those problems because there's just less development around them, right? It seems like the less development you have, the less room there is to get damaged from a writing point of view.
That's a good point.
And yet here we are.
Like, I don't think that moment also was robbed of gravitas, right? You got a Primarch coming back, like right. This is how big that moment was. Okay, my girlfriend at the time, lovely girl, California, not really interested in 40k at all, but she knows I love it. She knows I work for Games Workshop, and I go over and I see her just before the Gathering Storm's just been announced. It's that white dwarf with Guilliman on the front of it, even though he looks like Dawn because he's all covered in gold, which is the stupidest cover they could have gone with. But like, it was like the return of the Primarch, right? It was so seismic. I went over there and told her about it. She went, "What? The Primarch's coming back? What?" She knew 3 things about 40k, but she knew how big of a moment that is. So when you've got this happening, and it kind of happens with like a whimper. It kind of, oh yeah, that's happening now. There's no novelization straight away. That like they should have. I'm telling you now, this was the time. If you wanted to do animations, this was the time. Do a full feature-length animation, like an hour and a half long, of what happens. If you want to put it in that way, make it canon. Here it is. Here's like our Avengers movie of Gilliman coming back. It costs you some money, yeah, it would. But can you imagine the eyeballs on that thing? Rather than just saying it in an offhanded cuff article somewhere. Oh yeah, this happens now. Yeah, Gilliman's back now.
I think the real telling factor is how many times do people go back to revisit the topic. How many people do you think have really sat down and reread the entire Gathering Storm series and do it like annually? Yeah. Like my Horus Heresy Black books, the big tomes from Forge World, those are like an annual reread sort of deal. Like they're brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you say the same thing for a lot of that 40k just dribble?
I want to say there probably are people who would reread them.
There'll definitely be some, but like how many is like the market quality, right? Yeah, well, if you have 100,000 people poured into it.
Yeah.
If you had 100,000 buy in.
Yeah, Kaif is right there. It comes down to the individual, yeah. Yeah, he is right, yeah.
Yeah.
It does.
But like if you have 100,000 people buy into it and 5 people go back and reread it, that's kind of telling, right? How like tailored it is to a set of tastes.
Okay, yeah.
You know, it's like how bad movies find an audience. You know, when you watch like The Room and Tommy Wiseau or Samurai Cop. You know, like bad movies find an audience, right? And you know they're bad, but you enjoy it in like a cringy way.
Neil Breen.
It can be the same. Neil Breen, fantastic, yeah.
What I'm suggesting is I think there are probably a lot of fans who just love Ultramarines who just might be down with it in a non-ironic way, in an earnest.
I agree. No, they're definitely.
You know, they're just into it because that's their team. You know what I mean? And then you get a lot of emotional tie-ins, and I think you're perhaps more objective than most, Maka, right? That's fair. I think that's a fair statement to make in the hobby, right?
I don't think Maka
more
hates
critical.
any legion or
Let's say you're more critical. Maybe that's a more broadly agreeable, right? You're a more critical guy with your opinions than most in the hobby, I think. So I suspect a lot of people probably reread terrible stories.
It's a quite typical Australian.
And look, there's nothing.
You know, I will not abandon my standards. You know, these are my standards. If you fall below them, I'm sorry. This is a black and white binary thing. If you fall below that, that's Maka's channel in a nutshell. It's literally like, here's a standard. You are the best modelling company in the world. If you fall below that standard, I'm going to put this boot up your ass, and that's just what it is.
To be fair, I did not set the standard for them. They set their own standard.
Yeah, that's the standard, man. Yeah, that is. Yeah.
No. It's always a tough one for me because, like, subjective taste is a very real thing, right? But also, there are so many stories that are just objectively bad, but you can enjoy objectively bad things. People get really upset when I use these particular words for some reason. You can enjoy something that is bad, regardless of it being bad, but you kind of got to make your peace with it. You can't just deny the badness because you personally like it. I will call this Last Jedi syndrome, where
perfect example.
Yeah,
where it's like, look, you can enjoy the film anyway, but like when people can list this like endless, like, you know, like a Lutheran Martin Luther like nailing it up on the church doors. You know, this long list of grievances of like things that are wrong with it. You can't just like hand wave it away and go, yeah, but I just like it anyway. Because like, well, your opinion, evidence to it being good does not outweigh the evidence to it being bad. That doesn't mean you are obligated to hate it. That's not how it works. I was trying to take away your enjoyment, but it's like you can't sit there and, you know, piss on us and call it rain.
I think what I'm trying to say is that you're entitled to your opinion, of course, but that doesn't mean what you like is not empirically bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just a trap of conflating that because you like something, it must be good. And once you get over that. Like, I like things that I hit my chair. I like things that I know are not objectively perfect stories.
Sure. Yeah.
But they have cool parts, or, you know, in spite of their flaws, I still think the qualities are redeeming enough, right?
Dude, people like Dark Souls. Like, do you know what I mean? Like there are a lot of people out there,
People
including
love
myself.
Dark Souls.
Yeah, there are people out there, including myself, who think the gameplay is bullshit. It's just not very good. But there's millions of people who love it. You know, but empirically, if you look at like Ghost of Tsushima's combat compared to Dark Souls, it's night and day. You're like, yeah, this is it. The Ghost of Tsushima is the shit. It's amazing. Very, really difficult on the highest difficulty. One hitting you down, but you lose because of your skill set. You don't lose because you're the jaggy ass animations or your character winding up his attack for 10 minutes. You know, and it just, you know. But again, there are skill levels to Dark Souls as well. But what I'm saying is that there are people out there who would say that's categorically bad game design and not a very good combat system that your whole game's built around. But people love it. So we're not saying that, you know, it's something empirically bad, because it is. If you look at like how games are built these days in terms of a system, there's no way that game should have been successful, but it was, because it just hit a nerve. People just liked it, you know. Same thing might go for Gathering Storm. It just hit a nerve. People were at this point, you've got to remember where the hobby was, right? People were starved of content, and all of a sudden the whole setting's moving forwards. Are you shitting me?
You've just gone through a Wrath of Magnus. I mean, I would put it to you. You could write Gathering Storm, completely change the story. It could be better. It could be worse. Same reception.
Yeah. I think so.
Certainly possible. Yep.
All right. Who wants to?
It's like remaking like the new Star Wars sequels, right? When they first bring it out. I hated Force Awakens from the get-go. Yeah. So many people loved it. They're like, it feels like old Star Wars, right? It's the same kind of thing. Like, no matter what Gathering Storm was going to be, or it ended up eventuating into, the fact that it brought back Gilman into, you know, the game, and opened the door for Call and hand-waving Primaris Marines into everything, which are clearly have been a hit. No matter what, it did that, and therefore people are happy.
Yeah. I'm completely with you on that. I mean, I think we can go on to our next point. Does anyone have another one that is more controversial? I've got mine ready to go, but I'm willing to sit back.
I got a plot beat for you.
Go ahead.
Night Lords.
Ooh.
Players, people who get into that fluff where you got things like Unremembered Empire, where you got like Comrade Kurz single-handedly brawling with like Gilman and the Lion at the same time. It's like, what? No, just no. And the hand wavy way. Oh, but he has premonitions of the future, and that's why he can like anticipate the blows of Gilman and the Lion coming. It's like, look, he's just a thug who grew up like with Primarch stat lines, like beating up orphans in the streets of Nostromo, versus like the Lion fighting giant monsters and being trained by knights on Caliban. So these people are not the same. I just don't like that author trope of Night Lords, especially embody it, but also certain other furrier legions embody this as well.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, where the trope of taking a character and just hyperpowering them to the point of absurdity to just immediately skews the power levels, the power dynamic of the universe, just to hand a win to someone or just to present a threat, is never something that's sat well with me. And there are many examples of this. I'm just picking the Night Lords as like the cringiest edge example of this.
That particular example, I think, works really well because it's also, it reads to me as like they had Kurz operate like that, with that kind of power level, with that kind of dynamic between him and Sanguinius and Vulcan, right? They're in the mix too. That's a lot going on, right? And it's all because they need to it's like there's a mandate that by the end of this book, all these characters need to be in these locations. Right?
Yes.
And then it comes down to like the author, well, how do I get them there, right? And yeah, it's in part an execution issue, but I can empathize with it being like a demanding task.
It's a structural issue, and when you do that, it then gets frustrating for the Night Lords player. I'll use the example because then it's like, well, where's the repeat of that performance? How come they can't pull that out ever again? Because like, if you can take on the Lion and Gilliman all at once, well, we now have a person who is clearly the greatest Primarch duelist, like hands down, right? Like taking 2 Primarchs at once and not taking a scratch. Like, come on. It becomes a very inconsistent series.
They're very convenient, right? Very convenient for Conrad.
And to sort of further expound upon this, I promise I won't be too long. The example I've used before, Trey Parker and Matt Stone did a wonderful TED talk on this, talking about story writing. Because South Park actually has really solid story writing.
Yeah, it does.
It sounds silly to say, but it's true. And they say, this happens, which should lead to this, which causes this to happen, which ends up in this situation. Instead, what happens is a lot of stories are written in, wouldn't this be cool? Wouldn't this be cool? Wouldn't this be cool? Now just make them tie together after the fact, right? And Warhammer is really bad for this. Unfortunately, we are stuck in this situation because essentially we have timelines. We know this Primarch has to die here, this Primarch has to die here, this character has to die here, right? Or whatever it might be, right? This faction has to lose this battle. It's like, well, how do you build drama and suspense and all that kind of stuff when you know what the outcome is? So now you have the authors knowing these are the plot beats you have to hit, bang, 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 and now make it happen, get them there. And it causes bad writing to happen, even if the writer had the best of intentions. And I think that that example of Conrad Kurz fighting those other Primarchs, it falls into that trap because it's like, well, fuck. What do I have up my sleeve that I can use? Well, Angron and Lorgar have already fucked off from the area. They're no good.
Yeah.
Alfarius, he's out of the picture. Horus, he's doing his thing. And Fulgrim and Perturabo and all that, they're all accounted for as well. So I'm just left with the only thing that I can use that's even possibly on the level of being a threat to the Primarchs without bringing in some whole new Xenos race and having to explain some whole new set of abilities is Conrad Kurz. So it's I get it. I get what the impetus is. Doesn't mean it's not terrible, though.
I'm with you on that one, definitely. I honestly think...
Totally agree.
Yeah, it's one of those samples where I didn't really think I get what you mean in that it's getting characters into a position where they need to be, but on my reread through of Unremembered Empire, low-key, it's one of my favourite novels, because you can sit back...
I like it.
Yeah, you can just sit back and enjoy what's going on, apart from the John Grammaticus stuff. Apart from all that, you can sit back and again, we go from... He does it again. We go from this duel between 3 Primarchs to John Grammaticus sitting in a fucking cafe. That's what he's doing. He's sitting in a cafe, and Eldrad talks to him through a mirror. Fuck off. I'm done. Okay, so we can get rid of that. But when I saw that three-way duel, quote unquote, between Gilliman and Lion and Conrad, I mean, it wasn't even presented in a way where it was Conrad's literally luring them into a trap. He's going around. It wasn't presented like that at all. It was presented as in he's holding his own. And he doesn't need the trap. He doesn't need the bomb to go off. He's going to kill them both. That's how it was presented. You know, it's in the actual prose itself, in that they're actually telling you, the signs they're telling you is Conrad is better than these two put together, which is nonsense, right? Absolute nonsense. And the other time we have, I think it's the same writer as well, have Conrad and the Lion go up against each other. Conrad is beating the Lion and gets stabbed in the back, sort of a thing. And now, there should always be mitigating circumstances in Primarch versus Primarch duels. It should always be, Conrad is beating these two guys because they're trying to kill him, and he's backtracking. He's not trying to win. He's trying to lure them into this place where they can be blown up, right? That would be cool. I'd like that. That would show Conrad's deviousness. It would show his, eye for an ambush. It's literally what his faction does, right? That kind of a thing. His psychological warfare and him making you make mistakes. Again, That'd be beautiful. That's not what he does in Unremembered Empire. He just beats
Yeah,
them both until a bomb goes off, right? That's just what
yeah, I totally agree, because like now that we're talking about it, I can remember or recall a bit more from the story, because isn't there like Gilliman's mom's in the book?
Oh God,
He's in danger at one point or something.
Yeah.
My point
Yep.
is there are things Conrad could do, or things that could happen to characters in the book that could pull Primarchs in different directions, and then you could have a more tasteful version of what we got.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we got that,
Right.
and then we got him beating the lion. He didn't beat him, but like got him on the floor and he's strangling him at the one point. You know, and if they wrote that from a point of view of the lion is being a duelist and is ready to duel, and this guy's not interested in a duel, he just wants to kill you. He wants to jump on top of you and like just strangle you, and he doesn't care about his own well-being. Like
Yeah, he fights dirty.
Yeah.
All the stuff.
That would make sense, right? Because the lion is the best swordsman of the Primarchs. Nobody wants to fight him. Nobody wants to duel him. This isn't a duel. This is an ambush, right? If they just had, they had but it's the lion who ambushes Conrad. He sucker punches him at the start of the fight and still loses. It's like, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing? It's like they don't know that the characterization of their own Primarchs, who are the main dudes in this story. It should have been literally the lines they're talking, and Conrad kicks him square in the balls, square in the knackers to start the fight off, right? Lion tries to hold his own, but the initial throwback of the first punch, he struggles to overcome it and he loses. That would be such a cool way to do
direct
it.
damage.
You know, it wouldn't even be like the punch in the balls. It'd be something like Conrad's already like rigged up C4 on the wall behind the lion.
Fine.
Click,
Yeah.
hits the clack. You know, drops the wall on him. You know, it was like when Rogel Dawn fights Fulgrim in the Siege of Terror. It's like, shouldn't be Rogel Dawn as Sigismund just fighting Fulgrim. Rogel is a defensive guy. Like, if you're in Rogel's position, Fulgrim comes in, turns into his little serpent boy. Rogel should have been like, yep, hit the claymores and just drop a whole section of roof on Fulgrim.
Yeah.
And then you can have him like his snake body like pinned down, and while he's trying to free himself, all these Imperial Fist Marines just pop up on the sides and just start hosing him with bolt gun fire.
Yeah.
And that's like, now it's really, you're selling it when Rogel and Sigismund start laying some strikes in on him with like, you know, the chainswords and the black sword.
Mhm.
Like, that makes an awful lot more sense, right? They just don't think these fights through. They're always going for that.
Well,
they're always trying to capture like that Darth Maul Phantom Menace, like the door opens and there's, you know, Conrad Kurz lighting a double lightsaber, you know.
Well, the thing is though, we've seen it done well. I can pinpoint at least one.
Yeah, we have.
We've seen.
But it's hard to recapture the lightning in a bottle.
We've seen Mortarion beat down Angron in a very believable way. Not Mortarion, Perturabo, sorry. Beat down Angron in a very believable way. Right, he has his entire legion just bomb him to shit, and then walks over to him and smashes him in the face with his hammer once. He's like, yeah, I'm not doing the heavy lifting. I'm Mortarion, I'm Perturabo. I'm not doing any of that. I've calculated you're going to come straight towards me. I'm going to hit you with everything that I've got in the most unchivalrous way possible. I've got no interest in fighting you one-on-one. I'm here to leash you like a wild dog. So I'm going to beat you down with all my artillery. And then when you've had enough, I'll knock you unconscious with my hammer. And he wins that fight, but he does it in a way that makes sense for his character. And for Angron's character, by the way. It doesn't take anything away from Angron, because he didn't lose in a fair fight. He didn't lose on Angron's terms, right? The thing is, the lion loses on the lion's terms. When you've just spent books and books and books telling us how awesome he is. He loses on his own terms, and that's not right, right? Gilliman and the lion lose on their own terms, fighting Conrad, right? No, Angron, his power level is preserved because, very cleverly, he loses, but he loses because he's fighting a guy who has got no interest in fighting the war that he wants, right? It's literally Sun Tzu 101, right? Hit the enemy where they're weak. Don't engage with them where they're strong. And that's exactly what Perturabo does. He goes, right, this guy's going to kill me in close combat. Bomb the shit out of him. Well, isn't that unchivalrous? Not very honourable. I don't give a shit about that. Did I fucking stutter? Drop the nukes on the bastard, right? I'm going to go, and then he goes over there, taps him once with Forgebreaker, job done. And it's brilliant. You know, they can do it. And it's quite so more perplexing and eye-rolling when they don't. Because it seems like they choose not to. They go out of their way to make these choices. It's really, really strange. I don't know.
Yeah, it's poor. Like, it is what it is. It's poor writing. You know what I mean? Like, and it kind of segues into in part to what I thought of sharing when you first gave the topic up in our group chat, North. But how familiar are you guys with War of the Beast?
Sadly, too familiar.
Yeah, I've read.
Okay,
I've read
perfect.
Then
if I'm forgetting any particular details, you can correct, right? But yeah, so essentially, look, I am somewhat. Some may say I am a Salamanders fan. Okay, right? And when I found out that holy shit, there's a side story where my guy's the commander-in-chief of the Imperium. He's the one who's there when no one else is. Like, he was doing what Gilliman's doing now, but before, like, first, I was kind of like intrigued by this, right? I was like, holy crap. This is the dream. This is, my guys are in the spotlight. Hell yes. And then I look into it, and this is just the point in the lore that I would like to remove, right? As per the initial topic. But it's like, I despise that Vulcan, Genesire of the Salamanders and of my successor chapter, right? All my feelings are tied up in this, right? My emotional investment is the kind of individual who, when he's around in the galaxy and the galaxy is beset by this existential orc threat, he doesn't want to deal with it. He wants to just be on this little side planet and protect it, because he has no sense of pragmatism. And this is like it ties into what we were just talking about with Primarchs making terrible choices because of like what is essentially just like, I would argue, bad writing, bad fault of the writer. Because it's like I can't buy into the idea of Primarchs being so amazing, so much greater than a mortal man, when they can't make rational decisions, right? Like, what does Vulcan think will happen if he just ignores the oncoming existential law? Like, he thinks, oh, but this planet's safe because I'm here. Even after the Imperium gets destroyed and everything's sent crumbling and it's all living hellspace. All right,
you went in
it's a living
hellscape. I thought you were going to go,
because...
man. I thought you were going to go,
what?
Here is Vulcan. Where are the salamanders? Why is this an Imperial Fist novel? Do we need more Imperial Fist love after the Siege of Terra, where they were the main guys defending Terra? You know what I mean? That's where that's what I was thinking we were going to get.
That is like a secondary, maybe even tertiary, like, issue I have with the setup. It almost feels like a character assassin, unless Vulcan is just that dense, because I can't buy into it. Like, these Primarchs making just terrible decisions, and I get it. You want to have a hero's journey type setup where he refuses the call. You refuse the call at first, and then he accepts it reluctantly, and then he rises and then makes the sacrifice at the end, right? That's kind of what they wanted. But this is a Primarch who's already been through the Great Crusade and the Horus heresy, and it's incongruent, right? His rational, like, his pragmatic decision making, his ability to reason feels completely borked. Now, again, I'm a little, that's like kind of like my rant from being annoyed at what I can remember a while ago. So if I'm missing anything in that retelling, I would invite you guys to clarify it for the audience.
I don't think so. I think
and for myself.
Yeah, not so much that you're missing anything, just more the context around, like, the threat that they're facing is essentially because they're nothing but create. I hate the War of the Beast series. Everything about it I despise. But essentially, it's the prime orcs. Get it? Primarchs? Prime orcs?
Yeah, no, I understand.
It's a series of warlords who each are like a Primarch to an orc emperor-like figure who's the greatest orc to rise since the Tyrant of Ulanor. And so the Marines and the Imperium are at their wits' end, and they come across Vulcan and try to enlist Vulcan's aid Because like, hey, you're actually on a fucking level to fight these guys, and you got a super Primarch general's brain and all that. You could probably be of huge assistance to us. Can you just leave this shitty like backwater that you've been on for 1,000 years at this point?
Like the amount of good he could have been doing in that time. That's really what I'm trying to get to here, right?
Oh,
that's the kind of character he is, and that just damages so much about.
Well, he's more damaged by it at the end because of what the fallout is. It's like he's not even like the guy who takes on the head orc and finishes him off. He just dies to like some random prime orc that you don't give a shit about. And it feels like it was set up to be the final encounter. It's like, oh, that was just one of many prime orcs, 18 possibly. The Emperor Prime Orc is still out there, so Vulcan sacrifice doesn't mean anything. Now, tune in next episode for the sacrifice of the Imperial Fists. And they all died! And now we're rebuilding the chapter using second founding and third founding and fourth founding Imperial Fist successor chapters. Each of you send 10 guys over. All right, you're now the new Imperial Fist chapter. It's like there are no redeeming qualities to the War of the Beast arc for me. I'm sorry.
No,
if you guys love it out there, fill your boots.
I think there's one thing I did quite like. The only thing that I quite liked. And number one, orcs getting some time in the sun. Big up my green boys. I know I can see you out there, right? You deserve your own books. It was really poorly executed, but at least you're there. You're a Xenos, you've got to take what you can get. And also, it kind of plays into Rogol Dawn's Last War protocol. I quite like that. And okay, cool. Now we've seen the culmination of why Rogol Dawn put that in place, because now we've got these guys coming back together. They form the Imperial Fists, and now the Imperial Fists are much more diverse in thinking because they've got Crimson Fists in there and Praetors of Dawn in there and all these other people. So those two things are the only redeeming qualities of that book series to me. I kind of resent these books because when I started in 2016, I was made to read the first, I think it was like first three, because it was the big thing coming out. It was, it'd been out for a little bit, but it was the big thing we were pushing in the store, and I just didn't think the books were very good from like a writing standpoint. Just didn't think they were very good. Thought they were pretty boring. So, yeah, I get that. War of the Beast goes in the bin, goes in room 101, and let's go to the next bit of lore. I think it's my turn, and Months of Shame. I'm going to do it. For those of you who don't know, the Months of Shame occurred after the Third War of Armageddon. Essentially, most of the people in Armageddon had been subject to demonic corruption, or at the very least, they'd seen demons and know that they exist now. And so the Order Malleus Inquisitors and the Grey Knights say, right, we're not going to kill them all, but we're going to put them in work camps. We're going to have like settlements here where they can live and die peacefully. We're not going to, they're just going to be sterilized. They're not going to have any children, and then that's going to be the end of them. Cool. All right, great. No. Space Wolves don't like that, because Space Wolves have to be the hero of every single fucking story they're in, and so they actively antagonize against the Inquisition. Now, the Inquisition sucker punch them, don't get me wrong, and start and ambush them, but I'm sorry, that is the Inquisition's right. That is what they do. If you go against, if you're literally abetting chaos, taint, and worship spreading, you need to go right this second. Right, you are endangering the entire Imperium or sector. The Space Wolves have no leg to stand on, and of course the Space Wolves beat the Inquisition and beat the Grey Knights, by the way, like a drum, like they're not even trying. Logan Grimnar moves across the room in Terminator armor so fast that a Grey Knight Grandmaster can't can't react quick enough. It's just bollocks. And the worst thing they do, if this was the event that broke the Space Wolves, where they're now hunted across the galaxy, okay, I'm behind that, because every action has consequences. I'm behind that. Okay, cool. No. The Space Wolves get away with it. The Space Wolves just wander off. Right, gave the Inquisition a bloody nose, and no consequences whatsoever, and they just wander off, and they just get to do what they want to do. And the Imperium just says, right, we'll keep these two apart from now on. Grey Knights and Inquisition and Space Wolves go their own separate ways, which is what the Space Wolves wanted anyway. So they win. They win. On every single phase, they win. The entire lore is broken.
It's terrible.
Yeah, the entire law is broken to accommodate these fucking furry idiots. It really is. Every time they're on screen, the law breaks its own back to accommodate them. It just because we can't have them take a loss because their fans would cry rivers and whinge and moan and bitch. It's like they're intimidated.
Who's the author of that book? Do you know offhand?
It was the Emperor's. We saw it in the Emperor's Gift, which is a crime. It's a fucking Grey Knight novel. It's a.
Oh, that's terrible.
You know, like it's a Grey Knight novel, and what we get, even the Inquisitor, who was with the Grey Knights at the start, is a woman from Fenris. Fuck off. Right, you can't get away from them. They're all over the place, and it's such a shit piece of lore. But people, and here's what really fucking grinds my gears. I'm well aware that the Grey Knights had one broken codex back in the day, but the amount of hatred they get in the lore is astounding. It really is. Like oh, they're so arrogant, dude. They're literally anti-demon space marines who've been brought up to believe that they are the pinnacle of the Emperor's Blade. Yes, they're a bit up themselves. It's not even arrogance. It's a matter of fact. Like, no, we're better than you. Sorry. Like, we're better than you. That just is what it is.
Yeah, no, you're right. Like, I'm not a huge fan of, like, marine sub-factions that become, like, they are better, right? Because they're new. It's like the Primaris thing a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But it is what it is. And if they are all psychers and they all have steel weapons and everyone has a force weapon, it's like, hey, yeah, they're better. Like, it's just what it is.
Even equipment, yeah. But then you've got other novels where, you know, you got Kion, in the Black Legion novel, who was baiting 5 Grey Knights at once. But you know, Kion is 10,000 years old, and he's got, you know, ridiculous levels of power. And even he says, dude, these guys are tough. These guys are... Because at that point in the novel, Kion's just, like, eviscerating titans and shit. You know what I mean? So, and he's like, yeah, these guys are tough. I got that. People were really upset with that. No. Power levels are a thing. There are things in the galaxy more powerful than even 5 to 10 Grey Knights. Absolutely. Right? They shouldn't be beating down a Primarch on their own. Hello, Drago, you fucking asshole for doing that to our faction. Go away. Right? But you gotta call it out when you see it. You gotta be fair. Right? There are certain parts of the Grey Knight lore that make me roll my eyes. Yeah, Mortarion thing with Drago, yes. And nearly anything Drago does, yes. Right, okay. I'm with you on that one. Anything Matt Ward's touched, absolutely nonsense. I wish they'd retcon it and get rid of it. I would honestly make the Grey Knights a really sparing force, where there's like, yeah, there's 1,000 of them and they're really precious, so they're only sent to the most dire situations. You know, so you turn their power level right up, but you make sure that there's only 1,000 of them and we're always losing them. They're always precious. And yeah, you make them like silver custodes essentially. That they are a level down from custodes, above Space Marines, but a level down from custodes. And that's what you do. If they have the Emperor's Gene Seed, they've got to be better than everybody else. Sorry, that's just how that works. You can't have the Emperor's Gene Seed and like not be better than a Rogel Dawn Successor Chapter or Ultramarines or, God forbid, Leman Russ, right? But the Months of Shame were a fucking aberration, and I just, you know, not good at all. Just bad writing.
I'd also add in there that, like, you know, as a great example of what the Space Wolves got away with, First War of Armageddon. Remind me again how many Grey Knights it took to take down Angron and his bloodthirster compatriots.
Yeah, it's like
I believe it was 100.
Yeah, entire Brotherhood. Yeah, third Brotherhood.
And that's what it took to take on a demon Primarch, and I think it's 10, it could be 8 of like Khorne's greater demons. Mm-hmm. And they die to a man. There's one Grey Knight left at the end of that fight, and Angron is banished and he's all messed up. But when they fight the Space Wolves, they don't even... So it's like if you're playing like rock, paper, scissors or something here, it's like the Space Wolves are always going to be like, whatever needs to be to win is them.
They just melt.
Yeah.
As soon as they
gotta set the Space Wolves to banish your demons. That's just...
Yeah, because it's like Logan Grimnar is not on Angron's level, right?
Well,
so he can't be taken on multiple Grey Knights, including a Grandmaster. Like he should just get long bombed across the room.
It's a similar thing.
It makes no sense.
To the Curse thing, isn't it? Right? Yeah, the power levels are there for a reason, and when people wantonly just sidestep it, I'm well aware that I'm more salty than most because I love Grey Knights. I think they're the coolest thing fucking going. I think they're just awesome. They're like Dark Angels, but not cringe as fuck. And I love Dark Angels as well, by the way. But there are certain parts of the secrecy and the my name's Azrael.
Thank you.
Is your name Azrael? Is your name Azrael? Get away! What a soppy name. Go away. That kind of thing. I just think the whole thing was so poorly thought out, and it just gave the Space Wolves yet another win that they didn't need. It is a running theme today, right? We've got him killing Gazgul. We've got him getting away with murdering Dark Angels. We've got to get him giving away.
I have another example. I had a backup in case someone else did War of the Beast.
We may as well get them all out the way. Let's get all the Space Wolf shit out there. But by the way, Space Wolf fans, if you don't think your faction's fucking cringe and why people don't like them very much, this is an entire section dedicated just to you, right? We've already covered Ragnar before. Let's jump in. Kaifa, what were you going to say? What was the next thing you wanted to go on about?
Let me just preface it. I think this is some things I recently watched your recent video there, North, where it's like you make a great point. Like there's a good theme, there's good attributes about the Space Wolves that are there. Awesome. It's just terrible adaptations, right? Awesome. That's just purely what this is, right? It's an adaptation issue. It's not an inherent problem with like the concept. No. But anyways, the issue that I was gonna also have as backup was I hate how Magnus behaves when Russ is coming down to murder him, and how that whole interaction goes down. Yeah. Or Russ doesn't have the faculty, rational. It's another example of the Vulcan in War of the Beast. It's a writing problem because it's like they need Primarchs to act in ways for certain outcomes, and by all logic, they would not come to these conclusions and make those decisions. In my mind, it just doesn't add up. The Primarchs are too emotional, right? And that's like my very first topic that I shared with you guys on the series, right?
Yeah.
It's like our Space Marines too human. It's like, yeah, our Primarchs too emotional, and I think Primarchs bend to the wind of emotion worse than a woman when it's that time of the month. Like it's terrible. It annoys me, and I can't just. It absolutely obliterates my ability to like suspend disbelief. Where it's like, oh yeah, so Magnus is just going to wallow. He's going to wallow as everything falls apart, when he could take actions to do damage control, to potentially stop what's going on altogether, right?
Yeah.
It's just the worst.
It's the all your spaces belong to
well, since we're all kicking Space Wolves players while they're laying on the ground already bleeding, it's just, I did a whole video on just why people don't like the Space Wolves and Leman Russ in particular in the Horus heresy, and it's like, because every move he does is the dumbest possible move in any given situation. Somehow, it kind of pays off for him every time, which is even more frustrating. Because it kind of works out. I don't know if you're Simpsons fans, but I feel like I'm the Frank Grimes to Leman Russ's Homer Simpson.
Yeah,
right.
Homer's friend.
He just Leroy Russ headlong, and he's like, oh, I was teaching Angron the lesson that, like, you can't just charge in head first. Charges head first in on Prospero. Charges head first in against Horus on his flagship. Like, charges in head first at the Alaxis Nebula against the Alpha Legion. Like, it's all he ever does is charge in head first into a situation. And then, like, when he's fighting Magnus, he's like, fuck yeah, gonna break this sorceress bitch's back over my knee. When he's fighting like Horus, while the literal walls have wailing souls made of flesh screaming at him, he's like, maybe this guy's redeemable. Yeah. Maybe I won't kill him, even though I'm so amazing. I've actually managed to land the killing blow on a superpowered Horus powered by all the Chaos Gods, because I'm Leman fucking Russ and I am the best. It's like, I hate you. I hate you so much.
It's a writing issue. Okay, Space Wolves fan. Okay, it's not a problem with the faction person.
You can play Space Wolves and dial it back, but please don't go defending this stuff and being like, well, actually, Macca. No, there's no actually.
No, this is crap. Retarded. This is The one scene I like Leman Russ in is when he was playing chess with Loken. That was funny. That was legitimately funny. Like he showed like he's like the curmudgeonly dad or the uncle who likes to test you by playing video games or throwing catch with you. Right? He's literally like he turns to Malcador when he's beating him at chess and goes, he doesn't learn quick enough. And like Vulcan isn't sitting right there, he goes, you don't learn quick enough. Leans into his face and says it to him. It's like, yeah, everybody's dad or uncle has done that to them at one point. It's like, that is funny. But apart from that, Magnus right. Like, every single thing he does just works out for him, and it's just retarded. If they were actually
somehow.
And here's the thing, Maka,
he never gets punished.
No, he
never gets properly punished for his stupidity.
I think we will all readily admit this, Space Wolf fans. If your Legion was present at the Siege of Terra, wouldn't have been a problem. Wouldn't have been a problem. If Leman Russ was there and the entire Space Wolf Legion was there at Terra, it's over. It's over. Horus is fucked. Absolutely fucked.
Oh, no.
You know, he's fucked. But he decides, no, I'm going to try and get all the glory for myself. I am not meant to sit here. I'm a wolf. I'm going to go out there and, oh shit, I'm dead. Or I'm in stasis or whatever. You know, it's just... It's
not even like it's a grand plan of like, oh, I'm going to lure him. I'm the noble savage. I have this fake savage facade. I'm actually like a really well-cultured and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah, you're a moron.
Like, your plan is always just charge straight up the guts. He's like Ferrus Manus. Like, we keep getting told what strategic geniuses these Primarchs are.
I hate that too.
And by the way...
Like, Ferrus and Russ both fall into this trap of, oh, they're just total strategic geniuses. Like, they're in Gilliman's dauntless few. And what do? They're just like, yeah, up the guts. And they just treat their Legion like an American NFL team.
It's because of their emotions, though, right? They were so emotionally torn in those moments. And then people will defend it. I say people, fans.
This guy...
Like, non-critical brain people. Now I'm getting upset. Sorry.
Dude,
but people will defend it as like, oh, don't you see? It's like poetry. It's like the legends of ancient fables, of ancient times.
Yeah.
It's like mythos. And I'm like, no. They're just acting like idiots.
No, this guy, one thing I can't forgive him for, he got Iacton Cruz killed. And there were so many knights errant, and I was like, don't you touch these. Like, Leman Russ, stay away. Don't get these involved in your stupid fucking plan. If you get Loken killed on the Vengeful Spirit, I swear to God. I mean, Erebus did that for me later on, but it doesn't matter. But I swear to God, right? If you get any of these dudes killed, I'll never forgive you. And of course he does, right? Because he's a fucking moron. And he gets them all killed. Because, you know, his plan falls apart. How am I going to... Yeah, we're going to etch things into the wall so Leman Russ can... Oh, fuck off. Fuck off. Like,
you know what he is? He's the Imperium's Benito Mussolini. Just if he's joining you in the fight, you're fucking screwed.
Yeah, he'll get out of it, but you're fucked. Like,
he'll get out of it, but you're screwed.
Yeah. Anyway.
Unfortunately, Leman Russ has not been found swinging from the end of a lamppost yet, but there's still time.
Still time. He's in the warp. It's you know. Shall we get into the wolf time stuff? Just to bookend our Space Wolf discussion. Kaifa, you mentioned this before. Maybe you should take the reins on this one.
Well, okay. So when I mentioned that earlier, I was alluding to the book in the Dawn of Fire series that I did a video on a while back. Because I was just baffled by how poor the writing was, and it was like, oh, yet another bad example of Space Wolves getting a terrible adaptation. It's like in their own book, they're like the least likable people. It's so bad, right? That's more what I was referring to. But broadly speaking, the Wolf Time, if I recall correctly, refers to the ancient prophecy of Leman Russ and his people that when the night is darkest, Russ will return, and this will be known as the Wolf Time. That's the gist of it, I believe.
Yeah, it's 5-year-old shit, yeah.
Yeah, it's also like I feel like every missing Primarch has that exact same thing going, right?
That's true.
It's like there's just some ancient when Vulcan's relics are all united. You know what I mean? It's like it's very similar.
Except Jagathai Khan, who is living it up in a dark Eldar harem. So like,
yeah, but he's cool though.
Go Khan.
He's cool. Yeah, he
gets
good books. He gets good books, but you know he doesn't get a bike in his models. So maybe you win some, you lose some. He's
probably seen Leman Russ like stumbling around drunkenly in the webway and just like just looked out the Dark Eldar motel curtains, seen it, and then just drawn the curtains back shut and go, yeah, I'm not having a part of this. Back to the orgy.
I think that's also like, I'm afraid of Primarchs coming back. Not because, well, number one, I don't want them to come back. Never mind that.
That's not where we are.
Yeah, but it's what they're gonna do to them. I like the line where he was. Him coming back, fine, it makes sense. But Gilliman and Lion, fair enough. But the Khan, what are they gonna do with him? The only one I want to see come back is Korax, because he's this demon thing. That would be absolutely awesome. Yeah, I want that. Yeah, I want this avenging demon dude, so that all of the Raven Guard go, oh my god, like what's happened to Dad?
It'll be an interesting reunion for sure.
Yeah.
Well, he's become a creature of pure shadow, but hasn't in much the way that Korax become a creature of pure shadow. Isn't it said that Russ is just a wolfen now?
Well, it's hinted. It's not like we haven't had a story where that literally is the case like we have with Korax. It's been hinted by the powers that be that's what's happening, but it hasn't been, as far as I'm aware, it hasn't been confirmed that's what he is. But if the 13th Great Company coming back is any nod, then yeah, he might be a wolfen. But the last thing on the Space Wolves, even their flaw is like, yeah, and sometimes we become werewolves and shit. Fuck off. Fuck off. That's your flaw. That's your flaw. That's
your
like
greatest
Ultramarines
weakness?
flaw.
Yeah,
Ultramarines flaw.
terrible.
We're too good at battle. Fuck off. Oh yeah, we're too good at tactics. That's our flaw. We write really good books.
What I say before we record the episode, here at Space Wolves, we're better than you, and we know it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, right, we can leave Space Wolves there. Right, Space Wolf fans, you can click back on the video now. You've got an evisceration. Maka, what is your final piece of lore that you wanted to talk about? Maybe one that's more controversial. I don't know. Maybe whatever you got there.
The retconning of existing factions to suit modern day political ideologies.
Oh no!
In any game system, in any way, shape, or form, sacrificing the art for today's issue or topic. It ages poorly every time it's done. Regardless of whether it's conservative, whether or not it's, liberal, whatever you want to say, right? Mm-hmm. Every time that someone comes in and tries to, because it's like when you hear lingo in a film, like cowabunga, dude. Like you can tell a 90s film a lot of the time, or an 80s film, just by some of the words that are used. And it's very much the same to me with political things. It's a very fine line to draw between hinting at real world politics and using those as a springboard for your universe, and just adopting them wholesale, picking them up, slapping them into your universe where it makes no sense, makes no rhyme, no reason. It's always bad when you do that, and I don't care what political persuasion you are. That's a very blanket rule. Okay, just don't do it. It dates it, because the minute society moves on from that thing, if you come back and revisit it later, it's aged horribly.
You're speaking generally, but is this not you're not relating this to anything present that I may have missed in the 40k or Warhammer?
Well, we did have the
IPs,
Custodes thing, didn't we? We had the FEMA Custodes. And the general...
Okay. Just checking if there's something I don't know.
No, it's the general...
I missed it.
Like the way the lore is going, you can tell the undarkening, the ungrim darkening of 40k is very. By the way, I apologise for the eye cancer I've just put into the Discord chat, but it's
So you should.
Yeah, I apologise.
Yeah. Well, that's.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether it's that. It can be some of the story threads in the Horus heresy. Again, I don't care if it's left wing. I don't care if it's right wing.
No, yeah.
Just the minute you set something with modern day politics is clearly a deciding factor in your storytelling choices,
it just ages it.
I'm immediately turned off, and that's a rule that, not just for Warhammer, for all media. There is definitely a time and place for that stuff, but it's not in my fun
Yeah,
escapist
just
fantasy.
look at just Dragon Age Veilguard. That's the present example.
Oh,
That's the
God.
best one.
Yeah. What they did to my boy. Now, do you know what? I want to press on that point, though. I want to press on that point because there's a reason why Star Wars, the original trilogy, and The Lord of the Rings, which I put in the same category of, foundational pieces of fantasy, there's a reason why they were so successful, and that's because they don't age. They're ageless. They are...
Yeah, timeless beats
timeless.
topical.
Exactly, yeah. They're not of their time. People say Tolkien's writing is. No, it isn't. If you actually read it, it's actually quite modern. The way it reads, you're like, oh, this isn't fuddy-duddy. This is quite funny. Like, he actually has humour in there, and, apart from when Tom Bombadil's on there wasting everybody's fucking time. Apart from that, things are going really well.
The John Grammaticus of Tolkien's work.
The self-insert. But, like, there's a reason why Mackie used a really good word there, timeless, right? If you want your work to be timeless, then don't put modern shit in your setting or whatever's going on. It's not worth it. Explore things, explore themes, and you can do it in really clever ways like Dragon Age used to do when they had the Qunari in there. The Qunari are a totalitarian regime, but in a world full of famine and demons and shit, sometimes totalitarian regimes can be very attractive because they're like, yeah, you've got absolute security, no one will ever trifle with you, and if you're a part of us, you're one of us. You're a Qunari now, even if you're a human. And these massive dudes with horns are all protecting you, making sure you're okay in their empire. And yet you're going to be a baker for the rest of your life, but you'll be a baker, you'll be fed, you'll have your own house, your own everything, and you'll be fine, right? It is the ideal of totalitarianism. Everybody has their own shit, and everybody pays to the state, and that's it, right? Now, again, there are cracks in that. You don't have any freedoms, you don't have any, there are definite bad parts to it, but you can see why people in that world might be tempted to give away their freedom for certain bits of safety. It's a really clever way of doing it. They can modern things and put them in their setting without you even knowing about it. That's good writing. Saying one of your characters is non-binary is a fucking brain cancer, brain rot thing to do. And you're a moron for doing it.
Especially when it's that same setting and world you're in, that universe that you just laid out, right? That's like the bitterest pill of it. In my estimation.
I would use another good example is I'm a massive Star Trek fan, and we talk all the time about how we hate modern Star Trek is very political. And people say, Star Trek has always been political. It's like, yes, it has always been political, but it encouraged you to look into the topics, and it presented both sides of the argument, and it very rarely told you this one side is right. They're definitely in there. And often it pits the very members of the crew who all are in this utopian future against one another, where they're like debating it. They'll sit there at the captain's table and, yeah, but what if we do this? Well, no, what about this consequence for the people? But I think these people are entitled to this. Well, I think they're not, right? And they play out the audience's thoughts on the matter. And you're like, fuck, they make some great points. Star Trek's just like crying all the time and emotions. This is the professional people who would actually be piloting spaceships, just a bunch of emotional fucking wrecks. And again, and it just throws some of these things very just slapdash ham-fistedly at you. Not to say that old Star Trek didn't have some terrible episodes, some on-the-nose stuff, but compared to the modern stuff, Jesus, and that in that particular case, it's more left-wing ideology, but again, it doesn't matter. Like, it plays the same if you have the inverse of that. Like, if you have an overly conservative ideology thrust at you, that can be fucking
it would be
jarring.
as bad. Yeah, it would be as bad. Like, I get
so like there's a happy medium, right? And that happy medium is like taking an ideology that exists in the real world and just like taking an aspect of it and using it to play out in your fantasy universe, because it has some interesting themes to it, right? Whether it's militarism or communism or totalitarianism or whatever it might be, right? They're great springboards. But when you start like trying to create characters who are like one-to-one analogs in all but name of like political figures or whatever, that's when you start going, oh, really? really. And
that's the awesome
some authors will do this.
Yeah, it's fucking phenomenal.
Like authors will do this in Warhammer, where they'll make a character and then like Latara Saren is a great example. You're like, nothing about this character makes sense, because like even if it was a man, right? Ignore the fact it's a woman. It takes a lot to become the captain of a ship, either here on modern day present Earth. So to become a captain on a starship, let alone the captain of the flagship of the fleet, like you don't see 30-year-old captains, like, because that's how Latara Saren reads to me, right? The dialogue, the portrayals of her, the artwork reads very much like a 30-year-old character. It's like you don't have 30-year-old captains on, the USS Nimitz aircraft carrier. It's not how that works, right? And so it's like, I get what you're trying to do for your story. You've come up with this brilliant character, self-insert, and I don't care, right? But it doesn't read well. It's like the people who would be leading these fleets are probably like centenarians. They've probably been on that ship since the start of the Great Crusade, when they were destroyer captain in one of the early expeditionary fleets. And they're old and decrepit, and they can barely even get out of the command throne these days. They're hooked up to all these augmetics and rejuvenant treatments to keep them going. And they've attained their position as, the captain of the flagship, the admiral of the fleet of the Primarch, because there's some pompous, Terran noble who's just lingered around and not fucking rotted to death along the path of the Great Crusade over the last 200 years. And instead, you're like, and here's Latara Saren, and it doesn't matter, male, female, that's not the problem. The problem is age in this instance, right? There's a certain gravitas that comes with age. And it's just little things like this that, like, they're the real world encroaching on the fictional universe. And it's like, that in that fictional universe, there is absolutely, especially with the rejuvenate treatments and augmetics, there is no reason why you wouldn't keep more experienced people in that position longer. So it makes more sense to have old, decrepit generals and politicians in the Imperium of 40k and 30k than it does to have them in this world. And yet we've got a bunch of octogenarians running everything in this planet. So, that's my point. I just don't like that modern day trappings leaking into the stories. I don't think will age the stories as well. And if I'm wrong, feel free to disagree.
No, it's the one thing where people say, well, why are all these quote unquote woke political things failing? Oh, it's the industry. And I want to quote Seinfeld when I say this. It ain't the industry, honey. Your writing just fucking sucks. That just is what it is. It ain't the industry. The industry is a meritocracy for the most part. People will buy what they want to read and write and see and engage with. If they're not engaging, dude, I've had to take that on the chin. Like I've released role-playing games that didn't sell, right? And that was not what the audience wanted. They didn't like what I'd written. It wasn't there for the time. And then I've released other ones that really hit and made me a good amount of money, and it's done really well. So like, you got to take it on the chin. You've just got to say, like, there are certain times you've done something that you thought was cool, that you might have liked, that the audience doesn't take to. It's not a
every video we make. Yeah. Every video we make is like that. Yeah. The amount of times where I've put out a video, I thought, this is ironclad, there's no way it's going to be misinterpreted, whatever, right? And then that dislike bomb just lands and detonates with a resounding thud.
Yeah.
It happens. You can't sit there and despair over it.
No.
It's everything in life, right?
Everyone's got opinions, and you're more than valid, more than happy I'm more than happy for you to have them. It's fine, but it's a meritocracy, right? If you do good content, by the way, even dislikes or engagement, which is what I like about YouTube. I like that. Like, even dislikes or engagement, because it means they've reacted to what you've been saying, and so it goes through the algorithm and it's all good. But in terms of we get it all the time. Every single video we do is judged. This one will be judged. There'll be a lot of people saying, "Oh, I like Space Wolves." Dislike. Fine. Thank you for your time. I still don't understand people who take the time out of their day to leave negative comments on videos on a very small hobbying channel. But that's neither here nor there. I think you've clearly got too much time on your hands. But that's that's all good.
It's the same reason why. Terrible. It's the emotions. It all comes back to emotion.
It all comes back to emotions. Kai, did you have any last one, or are we calling it there? What do you want to do? Do you have any last one?
I might have had another example, but it might have slipped away from me, unfortunately.
That's okay. We can always do it at the start of the next episode, I suppose.
It's probably Primarch related, if I had to guess. something lame with Primarchs just being dumb.
Well, we covered that before. Then they are mostly dumb, which is why I don't really want them to come back in the setting.
Yeah. I mean, that's
race to the bottom.
Like, you know, like the meme that, you know, Ultramarines are lame and Gilliman's the golden boy and all this kind of stuff. But the reality is, man, based on like the vast majority of like adaptations we've had for so many Primarchs, Gilliman is one of the better optically like looking Primarchs, just from his decision making and like showing. I don't know, like, you guys find that an agreeable statement? Because that's kind of like where I unfortunately found myself like landing, because I was like, I didn't go into the Horus heresy like looking to be like a Gilliman fan, but so often I'm like, oh, Ferris is gonna oceans are gonna make him super stupid because he has to die here, right? So how are we gonna do it?
No, I get what you mean. Like Gilliman is most definitely, you know,
like he's allowed to act in the way a Primarch ought to.
Yes.
Like most Primarchs should be reasonable, right, and be able to do a cost-benefit analysis of the situation and which consequence do I want, right?
Absolutely.
Instead, Magnus just cries instead of just like picking up the phone and being like, "Yo."
Every time Magnus is involved, I think of like an X-Men movie, like Apocalypse or Magneto, when Wolverine in Days of Future Past takes a run at Magneto, and he just like spears him with rebar and then just throws him kilometers away into the Potomac River. Like, that's what Magnus should do. And when like Vulcan fights Magnus or Leman Russ fights Magnus, Magnus is like, well, looks like a fist fight's on the menu, boys.
Rolls up his
fucking
sleeves.
idiot.
Yeah.
You stupid, a fucking stupid the Magnus, eh?
I've had Hal Amber King on the channel before, and he's a big Thousand Suns fan. And even he says that. He's like, I fucking hate Magnus. I just can't stand him. Like, he just keeps doing
Look at Magnus,
shit.
you're a psychic Primarch. Like, even if the other Primarch is immune to your psychic powers for whatever reason, they got some bullshittium force field, like they kind of hint that Russ has. Like, his aura is so powerful, it overwhelms psychers in the area. It's like an anti-psycho fucking Gake and Faye. Magnus should just pick up a fucking giant like Prospero what do you call it, the like column,
an obelisk
like
or something.
Obelisk, like a Washington Monument sized thing, and just throw that at him and just be like, catch this. Chances are it's going to have enough momentum to move him some distance before it comes to a halt, right? Just anything to slow him down. Like, drop a pyramid on him. I'm guessing Russ can lift a bit. Probably can't lift 4.2 million metric tons. So, like, something. Give me something to work with you. Don't just be like, well, fuck, I've tried nothing and I'm all out of ideas. Like, you know, and then he starts rolling up his red sleeves. Like, come on. You fucking idiot.
It's time to throw down.
You just... the problem with him, right, is it's like when I'm watching a horror movie and you're watching... I don't know if you guys like horror films, but it's like when you see the person in the horror movie and there'll be like the gun or something that they could grab to shoot the villain with, and they grab the gun and then they do something like knock a villain over the head with the gun. At that point, I swap teams. I'm pro villain. I'm like, you know what? Nothing you can do to this dumbass is going to upset me at this point. Like, you fucking murder that fucking college girl. You do what you got to do, villain, to make this movie end, because they've just lost their fucking shit. That's Magnus to a T for me. Like, I've been playing Thousand Suns for nearly 30 years, right? That was the faction because I loved Egyptians. All right, when I was in primary school, I thought it was the coolest thing, Egypt and Egyptian history, right? These books on Tutankhamun and how Tutankhamun, how he was uncovered, and I thought, oh, it's so cool, right? And there was like, oh, it's an Egyptian themed like wizards that also have bolt guns, and just this cool amalgamation of all these ideas, right? And then, like, yeah, every time it's a Magnus, he's just like lawful stupid.
Right.
Should be a D&D alignment.
No, I like it. I think that's a good place to call it. I think we're nearly 2 hours in now. These are getting longer and longer and longer. We're getting to the stage where Macca's is going to be doing his coffee in the morning with the bags under his eyes. Like, so yeah, thank you for joining me, bros. That was awesome. Who's next? Who's next week? Who's doing it next week? Who's hosting us?
I will be. I have to
Awesome.
think of something.
Awesome. Do you have a topic yet?
No, I'm open to suggestions.
Can we draw out a Space Wolves bashing episode to 2 hours? I feel like it's doable.
It is doable. I think 2 hours is conservative, to be honest with you. I think we could.
I think if you arranged all the Space Wolves novels, like in just a row, and you threw a dart, or like not in a row, but like, you know, you made a wall out of them, you'd
Again,
each
like,
one would have a problem, regardless of
like,
where that dart
yeah,
lands.
yeah. I'm thinking like Martin Luther again, just the list of grievances nailed up on the door. To not at the front of Games Workshop, the list of problems with Space Wolves. It can be done.
And we're not saying it from a fuck you standpoint. We're saying it from a they are so cool and they could be so much better, but they're written like retards, and that's
well, that's
not,
where 100%. And I think that's something all of our channels share. All the criticism is from like an annoyance of what's wrong, right, and what it ought to be, right?
Absolutely. So we'll let Kaifer stew on that. But their channels will be in the description down below. Go and check them out and give them some love. I like the trifecta we've got going on because I've not really noticed, but I think all of our sub rates are going up at the same rate, which is kind of cool. I like that. It's quite cool. Support the guys. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. They're two of the channels I watch most regularly, so you're in good company. If you do it, do what you want to do. Anyway, that was Grimdark Therapy. We will see you next week over on Kaifer's channel. What the 40k is his channel. We'll see you over there next week, and have a good one. See you later, guys.
Later.